He is Jalen Anthony Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
Together, we are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do, Mr. Rose?
We get the people what they want.
The people of Toronto got what they wanted, and they got it from Pascal Siakam. They won game one behind Spicy P, who was 14 of 17 from the field, had 32 points in a breakout performance. Jalen, what did you see from Spicy P?
My most improved player in the NBA this year was terrific in all facets. He made a couple of threes. He slashed and made a couple of layups. He got a couple of dunks. He scored in the half court. He scored in transition. He grabbed rebounds. He did a terrific job of feeding people for jump shots. He locked down defensively. He guarded multiple positions. His energy was infectious, and he was the key player that drove Toronto in game one.
He absolutely was. Now, how do you think the Warriors will adjust? Not that this series is all about, Pascal Siakam, but how do you think they will adjust the way they defend to limit Siakam?
Well, here's a couple of things you got to do. Just give better effort. Get back on defense, stay in front of them, try to keep them perimeter-oriented, contest his shots, and just bring a level of physicality that Draymond Green, who was guarding him the majority of the game, just did not have. But again, you got to give a lot of credit to Spicy P for getting it done.
Of course, the defense from the Warriors does need to step up, but not the defense from the Raptors. The Raptors played excellent defense throughout this entire game. The Warriors were 10 of 44 on contested shots. The Raptors played great defense. What did they do strategically to limit the Warriors?
Like Uncle Chuck D would say, pieces in one big chess game. Yeah! Here's what they continue to do. They made sure that they fought through screens when they could, when it wasn't favorable to switch. They switched when they were able to. They contested shots. They limited uncontested layups and dunks, and they didn't allow anybody besides Steph Curry to really have a moment in the game where they felt like they could get hot. The first 7 to 8 minutes of the game, Curry got out of the blocks. They lost him a couple of times. He made a couple of threes. He's a former MVP in the game. That's gonna happen. But they didn't allow Klay to have those splash plays. They allowed him to be a ball handler because they took away his catch and shoots. And each time he tried to do that, Siakam reaching at it, Danny Green reaching at it, just making him uncomfortable. And then for Draymond Green, in the closeout game versus Portland, it was 20 points or more. Yesterday, 10 points, and then you limit everybody else. You don't let Looney have a big game. You don't let Andre Iguodala have a big game. You don't let McKinney get going. Now, all of a sudden, if you're the Golden State Warriors, you're grasping for depth and trying to figure where you're going to get points from other than your three main players.
It's important, and I also want to point something out. As we keep talking about Draymond Green had a triple-double. Sure, he had a triple-double, but it was 10, 10, and 10, and he just didn't seem to be creating the same way he was in the Portland series. Remember how he dominated the offense during that? And he was also 2 for 9 from the field. How does Draymond need to change his offensive approach coming into game two?
They slowed down his pace and didn't allow him to be that wrecking ball that Steve Kerr talked about. Off mades and misses against Portland, he was pushing the ball up the floor, forcing them to make a mistake. Did he kick it out to a shooter or score himself? They didn't allow him to get that momentum. Soon as he took 1 or 2 dribbles, somebody was there to slow him down. And then they were able to corral him. They took away a lot of the dribble handoffs. And also, normally how Steph Curry and or Klay Thompson make a pass and then go inside of the offense, and then before you know it, they're popping out to get an open jump shot. They did a terrific job of switching out. Kyle Lowry, Van Vliet, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Danny Green, they were prepared, and they did a great job of limiting the Golden State Warriors from the field.
One thing I also want to recognize is the defense that Van Vliet played on Steph Curry, especially in the second quarter. Van Vliet he's a good defender, of course he is, but he really kind of stayed right on Steph's hip when he was matched up with him. Do you think they'll do more of that in game 2?
Well, Fred VanVleet's one of my favorite players, and it's not for reasons that you would imagine. His waves stay spinning and he got a crisp hairline. And I think he looks a little bit like Drake. I saw him, I'm like, they kind of resemble one another. And this guy comes in off the bench, whether he's initiating the offense or whether him and Kyle Lowry are in the game together, interchanging off one another. He does a good job of making his open shots, but as you talked about, playing Steph Curry, that's a job in itself. Staying in front of him, trying to play without fouling. They did put Curry on the line a lot, but each of his points were earned, and he wasn't as efficient as he would hope to be.
Well, all of this factored into the Game 1 loss by the Warriors, but there is no factor that will swing this series more than the presence of Kevin Durant, who's arguably the best player in the league, if not definitely top 5 in the league. There is some new information. Chris Haynes and Yahoo Sports are reporting that people in the Warriors organization expect Kevin Durant to come back perhaps in Game 3, more likely in Game 4. Now, they haven't really gone on wax and said, sort of like, giving us a timeline at this point yet. What does this information change in this series for you?
It changes that Game 2 or 3 is when they're really going to need him. Because I believe if the Warriors get down 0-2 or they get a split in Toronto and then the Raptors go to Golden State and go up 2-1, it may be a little too late for KD to come back and have the impact that he had before he got injured. Look at Boogie Cousins. This guy was starting in the All-Star game last year. A terrific NBA player. He came back from injury during the NBA Finals. Did a good pass for a layup during the game, and we know he can score on the block. But it's gonna take him time to get back into the flow. Same with KD. All of these conversations we had about the analytics of the ball movement and how it's going side to side and how the Golden State Warriors are getting more passes and cuts without KD in the lineup. That's gonna be an adjustment to put him back in. And this is why I picked the Raptors to win this series. I'm not a fool. I understand the greatness of the Golden State Warriors. I've seen the Splash Brothers. I covered them up close and watched them win 3 of the last 4 championships with Draymond Green. But anytime 3 of your top 6 players are dealing with injury, they just don't have the depth that they used to have. So now KD coming back into the lineup, yes, he's one of the best players in the league, but then it's gonna be an adjustment from playing at all phases. The elbow, the block, his ability to get buckets one-on-one, that's gonna change how they play. And also, is he gonna be 100%? Is he gonna practice before he plays? So there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, you mentioned 3 of the top 6 players. We're talking about Boogie Cousins, Kevin Durant, and the third player I imagine is Andre Iguodala. Iguodala, late in the game yesterday, came up real lame. Your kid didn't really twist his ankle or anything. It just seemed like he wasn't right. That left leg had been bothering him previously, and it seems like he re-injured it late last night. At the time that we're on the air, we don't have any new information on Iguodala's status, but how important is his health to the rest of this series?
Oh, it's extremely important. We saw that he could be a Finals MVP. We know that he could be a lockdown defender. And one of his main charges is going to be to help slow down, double team, and/or corral Kawhi Leonard, who's also one of the best players in the game, who's been dominant throughout the playoffs. But I have to say this, and I mentioned it on First Take, that nobody's talking about. Kawhi Leonard is playing hurt.
Oh.
He didn't have the explosiveness, Jacoby, that I normally see from him. His first step wasn't as fast. When he got to the bucket, instead of dunking on people, he was double pumping. It seemed to take him a while to get himself going, to the point where he got frustrated with his health. And I watched him off the ball. There were a couple of plays where he was literally holding his shorts and not even moving. And I believe that the team knew that he was going to be a version of himself, not the best one. and everybody lifted. They like, oh, y'all gonna double him? Y'all gonna triple him? Okay, here you go, Marc Gasol. Here you go, Pascal. Okay, Fred VanVleet. Danny Green was able to get in double figures. So it was a total team effort playing around their hobble superstar.
Yeah, the health of these players is going to factor so much in ultimately who ends up winning this series. But while we're talking about Iguodala, something needs to be mentioned that's extremely important. And since we're serious journalists, we have to cover it. What is that sweater? The poncho orange sweater with the khakis? Like, Jalen, what is this look? Am I washed or is this like, what is this? Is this what's happening in fashion now?
I don't think that you're washed because I was about to do NBA Countdown and I tried to make sure I find out the latest and greatest because there's always breaking news. And then I saw Andre Iguodala trending. I'm like, wait a minute, it may be something about his calf. Maybe he's gonna be deactivated for the night. And then I seen the orange poncho too. I just wanted to see him put his hands in it like this. That's the only thing I wanted to see, if he could be able to do that. That'll look really funny.
Well, I can't wait to see if Andre plays in Game 2 and, more importantly, what Andre wears to Game 2. Jalen, your brother from the Fab Five, Juwan Howard, is now officially the men's head basketball coach of the Michigan Wolverines. He was announced yesterday. We will look at it and break it down right after this. Here's one thing that you all need to know about Jalen Rose, who is on television every single day. If you send him free clothes, he wears those clothes. For real. Political statements that he doesn't agree with, teams he doesn't support, people he's never heard of, high school teams from South Dakota. Just send him some gear, size extra large. Coming to you live from Pier 17 in the South Street Seaport District. Welcome back to Jalen Jacoby, brought to you by Heineken. Jalen Rose, we will get back to Game 1 of the NBA Finals, but first we have to acknowledge a dramatic change in your life and in the program of Michigan basketball. Juwan Howard was officially announced at a press conference yesterday, and let's just have a look at how he reacted.
We brought the jersey back. This is for you. I said I wasn't gonna cry. Guess that never happens when you're excited about something that's so special to you, that means so much. Brotherhood is big with me, and that's something that the relationship that we've built over the years, that will never leave us. They are family. Jimmy, Chris, Jalen, Ray. I know how supportive they all will be in helping to continue this Michigan winning tradition on and off the floor.
So, Jalen, you guys have talked this whole time about the support of the Fab Five and how the Fab Five is going to support Juwan. What exactly does that mean?
So when you're a college coach and you're trying to uplift a collegiate program, there are a lot of tentacles to it. Number one, people are gonna judge you by your wins and losses. So him being a terrific coach that put himself in position by earning his keep for 6 years with the Miami Heat, by being a longtime 19-year NBA veteran, by him being a former alum, he's already gonna put himself in position with his coaching staff to do his best at the X's and O's. And hopefully that plays out by the young men, how they perform well in the classroom and on the floor. But there's another component to being a successful program. It's giving back to the community and how you're able to influence others by the influence you have. And in each of our ways, we've tried to do that. Ray, Jimmy have been coaches. C-Webb and I working in the media. Now all of a sudden, as opposed to being fingers, we're gonna be like a fist. And when you're together, you can have a bigger impact. Not only giving back, but in recruiting, but in support of the program, and just being alums that bleed maize and blue. It's one thing to have a terrific coach. I love John Calipari, one of the best in the game. Took Memphis to a Final Four, had some great players like Derrick Rose. But it's nothing like when they hired Penny Hardaway. It's just different when you bring in a former player. Because a former player is going to not only have a level of cachet with the alums and all of the officials at the school, but with recruits, but with the fan base, and the level of relevancy that comes with the fact that you actually saw that person perform in uniform. It's just different. That's why it's laughable to me. Trust me, former players, we die laughing when media members and fans act like, oh, they don't have any head coaching experience. When you're in the court, when you're on the court and you're in the huddles, and when you play for so many different people and you play with so many people, and you've had to make adjustments like Jawan from being the number 1 option to the number 2 option to the number 3 option to being a substitute to sitting behind the bench as a player to sitting behind the bench as a coach, sitting on the bench as a coach, coaching summer league, that experience is invaluable. So now all of a sudden when he brings that to the program and the support he's going to get, taking over from John Beilein, who already did an amazing job, I think that level of relevancy is what's going to drive the narrative, and he's going to do a terrific job of leading the program.
So I'm going to ask you the question that other people won't ask you. Is the hiring of Juwan Howard going to be the catalyst for you and Chris Webber to mend your relationship?
I think so. And just because I'm fully transparent and I don't like to run game, people have to look back at the dynamics of we were childhood friends that played AAU together when we were 11, 12, 13 years old, way before Michigan. We decided we were going to go to school at the University of Michigan together. We were the last 2 to sign our letter of intent. That's why he wore number 4 and I wore number 5. Things happen in relationships, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, and you don't always see eye to eye. But then there's certain seminal moments that it's like, all right, the buck stops here. It's time to be serious, and it's time to sacrifice for something bigger than yourself. And the day that Juwan Howard got named the head basketball coach at the University of Michigan, that buried any demons that came from what happened, good, bad, or indifferent, with the Fab Five, both on and off the floor. And his hiring usurps any personal agendas, overtakes any personal disagreements. It's now time to all see eye to eye, be on the same accord, and give him and the University of Michigan the support they need to be as successful as they can be. I've never not had an allegiance to the school. However, there was a separation period, and I was riding or dying with my brother. Oh, he can't go back to campus? I'm not going back to campus either. So for 15 years, I didn't go back either. And as a matter of fact, didn't say anything to the media about it. The only time from 1994 to 2011, we talked about anything off wax that was happening behind the scenes as it related to family business was when it was time to do the Fab Five doc, because his separation had ended at that point, and it was a great time to bury the hatchet. But you got to give everybody their chance to heal as an adult on their own time. And now that Juwan's the head basketball coach at the University of Michigan, it's time to rally behind him. It's time to rally behind the program and do whatever we can. And it's not just about the Fab Five. I got to tell people this. I idolized Glenn Rice, Lloyd Vaught, Sean Higgins, Ramil Robinson. Antoine Jobert went to my high school. Leslie Rockamore, Roy Tarpley. My high school coach was like a father figure to me. Perry Watson left Southwestern when I did and joined Steve Fisher's staff. Steve Fisher, Brian Dutcher, Jay Smith, Michael Jackson, who was an assistant coach at Michigan, Detroit native. Bakari Alexander, Detroit Southwestern High School. So there have always been prints of the Fab Five on campus, but now we can be back to solidify them. And I'm really grateful that we have that opportunity. And it didn't take nothing tragic to happen. It just took time. And I want to tell young people, you can also grow. You can also mature. You can also reinvent yourself. The person that you see here right now talking to you, you can just look at some old footage. I wasn't that same dude from 1991 to 1994, okay? There was a level of maturity that had to take place with all of us. And so now that we're here, it's all about supporting Juwan and trying to see the program continue to elevate.
Of course, when we talk about Game 1 in Toronto, we have to talk about Drake, and we will right after this. NBA Finals continue Sunday night at 8 o'clock on ABC. Don't forget to watch Countdown before that at 7:30. And in the meantime, tonight at 10 p.m., some WNBA action on ESPN2. The Aces take on the Mercury. And also tonight at 6 p.m., we have SportsCenter. They'll continue to break down all the action from Toronto. What did Tiger Woods do today on the course? And much, much more. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. We had a great game in Toronto last night, especially exciting for the home fans. And when we're talking about the Toronto fans, of course, we're going to talk about Drake. The first thing Drake did, which I loved, was showed up in a Raptors jersey. Not just any Raptors jersey. He had on a Wardell Curry senior jersey that is signed by Steph Curry's father, Del Curry, who played some of his career in Toronto. And then there was this. There's the tattoos that he has of both Steph Curry and Kevin Durant's numbers. He covered with a sweatband. Very noticeable. Jalen, I love the boss move of wearing the Del Curry jersey, but the soft move of covering up the tattoos, like if you got the tattoos, they're there forever. We all know about him, Drake. You can't just cover them up. What do you think about his outfit?
I agree with you. It was a mental manipulation. When you show up with Dale Sr.'s jersey, you're basically sending a message, y'all have the son, we got the father. And ultimately, that's how this series is gonna play out if it goes the way Drake wants it to go. But I also have to say something for you national media pundits that continue to put the camera on one of the most famous people that we have in sports and entertainment, Aubrey Drake, and rightfully so. There's another gentleman sitting on the baseline. His name is Nav, and he's been with the team since 1995. And guess how many games he's missed? None. So while Drake's at concerts and out selling records and becoming a mogul, I just want to make sure that for those of us that are in the trenches, it's more than just acknowledging Drake being what you guys are calling a fan. He's not a fan, he's an ambassador. I just rolled past their practice facility. There's a big owl on the side of it. That's his brand. I just saw their practice jerseys. There's a big owl on it. That's his OVO brand. He's not a fan. He's a part of the organization.
So Jalen, not only did he wear the Curry jersey, he also had just a little chat with his friend Steph Curry before the game. And, like any friend, if you see something on their face or in their hair, you just kind of pick it off to help them out. So he must have saw some lint in Steph Curry's hair. So, he took care of it. And then he put it up for sale on eBay with the username Draymond Shouldn't Wear 23. Right now, that piece of lint, which looks like he threw on the ground, to be honest with you. Right now, that piece of lint, allegedly that piece of lint, is on eBay for $100,000. The current bid. Would you spend $100,000 for some lint that was once in Steph Curry's hair?
Hold on, are you saying that that's the minimum bid? Or
No,
are you saying somebody
that's what
did
the bidding
bid?
is currently at. Now, I doubt anyone will actually give up that money. I think these are all fake bids. But how insane is it to you that this whole piece of lint in Steph Curry's hair controversy is happening?
Well, it's Drake and his ability to have social media and use it to his benefit with so many followers on IG and Twitter and all of the platforms. We saw it against Milwaukee when the daughter of the Bucks owner showed up rocking the Fly Pusha t-shirt. He immediately embraced it and made that his Abby picture. So he understands as the Raptors continue to progress, the cameras are going to be on him. He got to root for his squad. Now, I also need to say this. We're going to see him have verbal altercations with fans. I mean, we're going to see him have verbal altercations with players and coaches. That's what happens when you sit in front row. But the one with Draymond Green, don't overblow that. They're friends. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they were out together after the game last night.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think people, called it a scuffle and think it's a real thing, like they're really upset with each other. They are friends. They have a relationship. They're just talking trash like two friends playing in the driveway. Like, it's really not that big a deal. It's not making it into something that it is not. And also, I have a question for you, sir. There's a friend of the show who is also a super fan of one of the teams in the finals. That's a gentleman by the name of 40 Fonzarelli. That's a gentleman by the name of 40 Water. That's a gentleman by the name of E40. And he was at the game as well last night. Do you think that the ball is now in E40's court to respond in kind when the series heads to the Bay?
Not at all. You stay in character because he's rooting for a team that's going for 4 championships in 5 years. Drake is rooting for a team that's making his first NBA Finals in 25 years. So there's going to be a different level of decorum that they're displaying when they're at the game. 40 going to have his beverage. He's seen them win. He probably got a ring. He came on our show, Brubman style, and let us know that the Warriors are going to win how many rings when they first started this run? You remember the number that he gave us?
10.
He said 9.
I think he said 10. Yeah, he said 10.
We did a lot of laughing.
I mean, he looks kind of right.
By the way,
he could be right.
They're racking up some rings really quick.
It could happen.
They might not get to 10, but to get to 4 or 5, that is really special. So, again, I like seeing hip-hop be embraced. I remember coming into the league at a time where people were wearing small shorts, and the closest thing you got to hip-hop was Woot, there it is. And then all of a sudden, the Detroit and the Bay Area love affair rekindled. And the Bad Boys adopted MC Hammer and You Can't Touch This. And then all of a sudden, the door of hip-hop and rap music was opened for sports. And now it's embraced, and it's big business. I can see Cardinal Official performing in the arena. I can see ASAP Ferg performing at a halftime. That's what it is now, driving the culture.
I have a little conspiracy theory I want to drop on you. I couldn't help but notice that there weren't too many camera shots of Drake, especially in the first half. There weren't too many verbal mentions of Drake during the game. Do you think it came down from on high to kind of take a little bit of the focus away from Drake during game 1?
Well, you have to basically try not to see him because he got a VIP seat. Whether players are checking in the game, whether the coaches are moving on the sideline, whether you're panning to see the reaction of the crowd, based on where he sits, you got to flat out try to ignore him and do it purposely if you don't want to mention him. And I agree with you, that probably was something that was planned, but ain't no getting around it. Don't hate, let them cook. You don't do that when the Lakers are playing and they showing Jack or they showing Denzel, or when the Knicks are playing, they used to show Spike Lee, but he don't go to the games anymore. Don't hate. Allow him to enjoy the fact that his team is in the NBA Finals.
There's some really interesting reports about Mike D'Antoni, and we will give you all the details. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. The day after a Game 1 win for the Toronto Raptors, and they played great defense, but the Warriors role players didn't really show up. The Splash Brothers kind of did their thing, but I would say every other Warrior in uniform could have performed better offensively. What do they need to do to get other players involved in Game 2?
They just don't have the depth that they used to have. So they got to get back to getting stops. See, we got so enamored with the Golden State Warriors offense, and rightfully so. the Splash Brothers, raining threes. This isn't that team that surrounds the three-point line with 4 or 5 guys that shooting 38% from three. This isn't that team.
No.
The Toronto Raptors shot 50% from the floor. They won the battle in the paint. They also made more threes than the Warriors. They got to defend better. Everybody's going to talk so much about offense.
It's a good point.
Pascal Siakam had his way. They doubled, they tripled Kawhi Leonard. He kicked it to Marc Gasol a couple of times in the first quarter. He was so wide open, he pump fake, he hesitated. He like, wait a minute, 17 to go on the clock. Should I shoot this? All right, I'll let it go. They attempted more threes in the first quarter, Toronto did, than any postseason game this year. They were that wide open. They attempted 14. In the second quarter, they only attempted 5 and scored 9 more points in the second quarter because they started to mix up their game, drive the ball to the basket. So the Golden State Warriors got to have a level of effort, a level of tenacity that Draymond Green talked about in the postgame. Yes, the offense and the shots are going to come and go. But if you look at the points, Steph Curry, good game. Klay Thompson, average game. Draymond Green, below average game. And nobody else brought them anything of substance. All of the people have to play a lot better in game 2 if they're going to come up with a win.
We will preview game 2 shortly, but first we're going to get to some very interesting reports out of Houston. Mike D'Antoni, last we heard, they were working on a contract extension. It seemed like they were going to firm up a little deal where they had Mike D'Antoni as a head coach of the Rockets for a few more years. Well, Mike D'Antoni has reportedly backed out of the negotiations. And one thing I found really interesting is that he was being offered a performance-based contract. Jalen, why would Mike D'Antoni back out, and why would the Rockets offer a performance-based contract? And he's only got 1 more year on his contract. And also, the other news is that the Rockets have put up the entire roster available for trade. What is happening in Houston?
Jay-Z and Too Short tried to tell us it was all good just a week ago. Here's the deal. Mike D'Antoni has proven to be a really good NBA coach. So many players have ascended and put up big-time numbers and achieved things they probably would not have done if he was not their head coach when he had them. I'm thinking back to Steve Nash and his back-to-back MVPs and how really in the modern day, he was the first guy that would do the pick and roll and then probe and go underneath the basket and dribble it back out to the other side. And then you had a guy like Sean Marion who played a lot of small forward, and then Mike D'Antoni moved him to the 4. And then you had Amari Stoudemire at the 5, and then it was 7 seconds or less. That was his style of play. We've seen James Harden excel, go from really being a shooting guard to now the primary ball handler. The most unique offensive weapon that the game has seen, because he'll lead the league at different points of his career in three-pointers made, free throws made. And so why has that now translated into championship productivity? So now as an organization, you got to sit back and say, Chris Paul has a big contract that we may or may not be able to use, may or may not be able to move. Clint Capella is a young player that has shown promise, but he's come up small in the playoffs the last couple of years. Tucker's an asset. I want to keep him on my team. I love what he brings, the tenacity. Eric Gordon, knockdown shooter. I can trust what he's going to bring. But we're not meeting our goal. I brought all these guys in to contend with the Golden State Warriors. That's where the performance-based part comes in. I'm seeing all of these individual accolades and all of these regular season wins, but when it matters the most, we're not really able to diversify what we do in order to get over the hump. And especially disappointing the way they lost to the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant. So you bring in Mike D'Antoni and say, you got a long track record, and we believe in you as a coach, but let's have some benchmarks here. Regular season wins, advance past the first round, advance past the second round, get to the NBA Finals. win the NBA championship. And Mike D'Antoni like, wait a minute, I'm a vet. I ain't trying to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to get my guaranteed money, just like Luke Walton just got guaranteed money before he really even got fired from the Lakers.
To me, if you're a head coach of a basketball team, it's like commit to me as the head coach of the basketball team, but don't give me these little hurdles that I have to get over with regular season wins. What if James Harden gets injured? Now, because of James Harden getting injured, I'm not going to get my bread. There's only so much I can control as the head coach. It's one thing if it's like, hey, you get a bonus on top of your guarantee if you guys go here, here, here. But it seemed like this was structured in a different way, which to me kind of seemed like a non-offer, and it feels like D'Antoni might have been disrespected by it. Do you think that's the right read?
I don't believe it's a non-offer, and I don't see it as disrespect. I see it as we believe in you, but we need to see if you're going to take us to the next level. Shout to Masai Ujiri. Let me school you guys. Daryl Morey is kind of taking a page from his book. Dwayne Casey was Coach of the Year. The NBA does a terrible job of announcing it June 24th, so we kind of forget what happened throughout the regular season. And so now all of a sudden, he's accepting the award at the NBA Awards, and he's already gotten fired by the Toronto Raptors and hired by the Detroit Pistons. And they were the #1 seed. DeMar DeRozan, all-star player, 20-plus point scorer, put on for Toronto while he was here. But if we can get Kawhi Leonard, we're going to take it to the next level. So now that's the quandary that Daryl Morey has. Have we hit our ceiling with Mike D'Antoni and James Harden as our best player? Because Harden's going to be there. Now the rest of the roster, that remains to be seen.
We will see what happens with the Rockets, but right now it's time for News That Matters. Well, the people in the sports world are hard at work covering and playing in the NBA Finals. There are some people that are not. Like Dwayne Wade. Let's check in on Dwayne Wade on vacation on the boat. One glass of wine, another glass of wine, gets that down. And then he goes to the bottle of wine to chug that afterwards. Jalen, what do you think about the glass bottle threesome?
I love it. First off, you know we support power couples. Shout to him and Gabby Union, always seeming to be living their best lives. Here's what I have to say about what Dwayne Wade did in that footage. It's kind of what most adults do actually when they're drinking. It's just they don't post it on social media. He's retired.
He's retired.
And he got millions.
You're working hard covering the finals, but I always know that you always set a little time aside for yourself and your lovely wife during the summer. What do you have for vacation plans?
So I'm looking back and forth at some emails that Molly's doing with a travel agent. And I'm looking like, this is gonna cost me $10,000. This is gonna cost me $15,000. Wait, this might cost me $25,000. I might need to respond to some of these emails. I'm looking, I see Dubai, I see Bali. I'm like, are we gonna connect in Thailand? I'm like, wait.
Well,
we need places to stay in each of those locations.
Wherever you guys
we're gonna have some big time vacations.
Wherever you guys end up, I know that you guys will be looking good because you guys, when you go on vacation, I've seen you do a little matching couples on vacation before. And so we got a little looking for you guys. See, look, we got you guys the Versace Mansion outfits with the Andre Iguodala vests. Because the Andre Iguodala vest is about to sweep. The Andre Iguodala vest is taking over the world of fashion. The NBA Finals take over the show right after. Thank you so much for tuning in to Jalen Jacoby on ESPN2. But don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media. We are available. Make sure you join our Reddit, too. Reddit.com/r/Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen and Jacoby is coming to you live from Pier 17 in the South Street Seaport District of Manhattan and brought to you by Heineken. Jalen, we have some new information that Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports is saying, but the Warriors have not yet confirmed that KD will maybe return in Game 3, likely return in Game 4. That's going to change the series a lot. Do you think that KD being added in Game 4 will be enough to give the Warriors a better chance of winning this series?
Well, having Kevin Durant on your roster is always a great thing, especially when you're going to play alongside the Splash Brothers and Draymond Green. So if he's able to come back later in the series, say Game 4 or say Game 5, and it's already tied 2-2, it's going to be interesting in who wins the best of 3. That's why if you're the Toronto Raptors, you got to get as many games in your pocket as possible before he actually returns. And they look really confident. They have home court advantage, and that's what makes Game 2 really important for them to try to secure.
Yeah, I think the impending return of KD actually puts a lot of pressure on both teams because the Raptors need to get these games won without KD, and the Warriors don't want to fall in a hole while they're working KD back from injury. So what adjustments do you expect the Warriors to make as we head into Game 2?
Well, initially it's with Draymond Green. And you look at the numbers, the triple-doubles was there, but he only was 2 for 9. They're going to need more offense from him. He talked about it. Put 105 on the board. And then you look at the Golden State Warriors roster and think about who's going to get you plus 30 possibly. Maybe Clay, definitely Steph. Who's going to get you 15 plus? Possibly Draymond. That don't add up. Okay, so now all of a sudden they're gonna need Andre Iguodala to get them points. Can McKinney contribute? Can Looney contribute? But also for Draymond, he gotta play better defense on Pascal Siakam. He mentioned it in the post-game conference. He came out a week or so ago and said he's the best defender to ever do it. And then in his first finals game, Pascal Siakam had 32 points. So, and 14 of 17. He made 11 consecutive field goals at some point during the game. So you have to find a way to shut his water off.
What's one more thing you expect the Warriors to adjust heading into Game 2?
You got to find ways to get to Marc Gasol and not leave him so very uncontested for open jump shots. You got to do a late contest. You got to run at him. He's proven that he can make the shot. They struggled in the previous series against Myers Leonard. He was knocking down shots, putting up big-time points. And the other thing, Fred VanVleet, coming in off the bench, does a terrific job of guarding, in particular Steph Curry, but he also got his offense going. Danny Green scored 10-plus points. So the Warriors have to play better defense collectively.
Jalen, before we end the show, I want to challenge you with something. You said that you were going to crowd surf in Jurassic Park. You played for the Raptors. You've been feeling the love from the city, but you didn't want to mess up your hair. Jalen, sacrifice for the good of the city. Sacrifice for the entertainment of the fans. Give the people what they want, and on wax, commit to a Jurassic Park crowd surf.
Here's what I'll do. Soon as countdown ends at 9 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to rush down there, and I'm going to crowd surf before Game 2. It's going to happen.
We have that to look forward to. Thank you so much for tuning in to Jalen and Jacoby. We'll be back.